All right, here we are with another very special, before the regular season, our guest spots end. So this is why we had to come all the way out to Las Vegas to interview the man here, Derek Stevens, Mr. Circa. But more importantly, you're basically the face of sports gambling now. I mean,
oh, gosh.
Well, look.
I don't know about all that, but
well,
I appreciate that.
Well, Doctor. Look, I'm in San Diego. I see a lot of you, and I see a lot of Circa. So thank you for taking the time. And we've actually found a quiet spot here a little sportsbook action here. So first question is, how do you go from auto parts manufacturer to the face of sports gambling? How does that work? I'm very curious.
Well, I mean, the reality is my brother and I, we wanted to diversify a little bit. So back in early 2000s, we were looking for different locations, and we really like Las Vegas for a couple of reasons. Wanted to go to a state with no income tax. So we kind of looked at Texas, Florida, Nevada.
Not California.
No, it's kind of like the opposite. Opposite, just because we were focusing on tax. I was moving an investment portfolio, but of course I love California. I just don't like the taxes. Florida was probably a little bit too humid. Texas, I thought, was a location where I didn't have any roots in there. Plus, I don't know a damn thing about oil or gas. And I'd been coming out to Vegas for both business and pleasure for quite a while. I love math. And I thought, okay, this is where we're going to move our investment portfolio. That lasted for about 2 weeks. And then I thought, it's not really, it's just not really me not being an operator. I'm an operator. I like being around people. I like growing businesses. I like developing teams, and that's how we got into the casino business when we bought the Golden Gate right next door.
Well, I could say that whenever I've been in Circa, like 50% of the time, I see you here and saying hello to people and operating. So you're a man of your word there, and meeting through other friends. Like through all of Vegas, it's probably half a degree of separation for Derek Stevens, right? So have you always been a gambler, or sports and other things? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved sports. Like I said, if you love sports, you love math, and you love competition, the probability of you making a wager on the game is pretty high, right? And I started coming out here early. I would say, I don't have to say this. I have to say this appropriately so nobody gets in trouble, including myself. I started coming out here in the 1980s.
Okay.
And started hanging out at some places like the old Little Caesars and then Riviera, Stardust, and kind of chased those little 10-cent lines all over the place. And I've always loved making a wager on sports. But then I went to school, and then I started working in an auto parts manufacturing company, and started making some money. And after about a decade and a half of doing that, I wanted to diversify a little bit. So that's how we decided to make an investment out in Las Vegas.
Well, first of all, look, I'm in California, so I follow the rules. I don't bet on sports at all. But the parlays, I'm doing some now because my son, who's 10, always wants to watch the Padres. It's just so much more fun when you have a little bit to have interest in the game. And so for gambling, though, this whole thing you could say your biggest gamble perhaps wasn't on any sports, whatever. It was just this whole concept, like $1 billion of financing and all that stuff, right? I mean, or did you look at that as not a gamble at all? It was.
Well, I've always thought that sports was an underserved market nationally, and as well as really in Las Vegas. I felt that Las Vegas as a community could handle the Major League professional sports league for a long time. I mean, I had 6 years where I got to own the AAA team, not a big league team, but the minor league team. And I was very convinced from 2007 onward that Vegas was ready. One of the reasons I thought was because so many people love to watch, their team on the road, and they're all going to come to Vegas versus, a lot of other minor league towns. And so I thought Vegas could handle a major league team. I also thought that sports was such an incredible form of entertainment where we all are consuming our entertainment differently. Think back like 60 years ago, there was no television. You're playing cards at home and things like that. Then time goes by and TV kind of comes into it, but very limited. Didn't really change dynamics that much. And then cable TV got invented, and then it's going to jump to satellite. Now we've got our smartphones and this unbelievable information age we're in. And I think that the way people now consume their entertainment is different. And this happens simultaneous with the development of on-demand TV for pre-programmed shows. I mean, all movies and television shows, things have changed. I mean, we're going to watch, a show on Netflix, but we're going to watch it on our time.
Yes.
I don't know anybody that ever going to say, I'm going to watch the Super Bowl on Tuesday. It's not going to happen.
Right. It's right.
You're going to do it right then. I mean, it's the most live watched element. I've always thought that when I was designing Circa, and this goes back to like 2015, why we wanted to get into the sports booking business and things like that. I always thought that live events was really what's gonna really kind of take over. When with the development of Netflix, it became more stark to me. And I love Netflix, but it became more stark to me that, boy, advertising rates are going to go way up on sporting events, and advertising rates on other are going to go down. Of
course.
And now it seems like, well, of course. I mean, yeah, we have 20/20 hindsight, but I mean, at some point, there people are scratching their head. I always thought that sports was an element of entertainment that people love to watch together. They love to watch it live. And I thought, back in my day when I first started coming to Las Vegas, back when it was the Las Vegas Hilton and the Caesars Sports were the two big ones, I always thought the element of bringing that back, that sports doesn't just have to be an amenity inside of a big hotel resort. It could be a focal point, because I think there's enough people that really enjoyed it. And I didn't use a lot of groups to kind of test it. I kind of just developed something like, I know myself and my buddies, we would stay here. That's kind of how we developed something.
That's perfect. Well, you make a great point, because no one watches. The only live TV people watch nowadays is reality TV, which is like my friend started the Bachelor franchise. The Bachelor, that's reality TV. News, local news, that's reality TV. Sports is reality TV. Mm-hmm. Whether you get a rose or a 300-pound guy moving a funny-shaped leather object across the white line, it's reality TV. And the other part of it, I think, with the gaming part is it's personalization. Mm-hmm. So as a former San Diego Chargers team physician, when I started with them as a head team physician, the NFL was the biggest sport. By the time I finished, I think it was bigger than all the sports combined. And here's what I say it was. Early on, everyone would ask me, how's LT? We have to beat the Raiders. Okay, because the Chargers, Raiders. Mm-hmm. And it morphed by the time I was finishing to, how's Gates' toe? He's on my fantasy team. Right. And nowadays, whether it's Thursday night football, Monday night football, no one pays attention. People used to ask me, what time do the Chargers play this week? Are they on the road and it's a 10 a.m. game local time, or is it 1? Now you just turn on the TV in San Diego at 10 a.m. Now you just watch Sunday Night Football, because there's a fantasy guy that's on your team or against you, or you have a wager or a parlay on it. And it's the personalization that makes sports so good, I think. And you were ahead of your time on all of that.
Well, I think when someone puts a wager in a game, it gives them a little bit more interest. It gets a little extra juice in the game. If someone has, although this is not considered gambling, if someone has the running back on a specific team and they're in a fantasy league, they have a little more interest in the game.
Sure, it's personalization.
And that's skin in the game. Exactly. You got the skin in the game. And I think they blend of gambling, and then also the how fantasy football has just exploded over the last 20 years has really made NFL really just the perfect sport, this perfect league.
And males and females even at bars, and everyone does it. Yeah. But the other thing that I would say is, the person is like golfing. That 3-foot putt looks a lot longer if you have $5 on it, right? It's for pride or whatever. It becomes, and so that adds to the personalization and excitement of it for sure. So I love your sports book.
Appreciate that.
Jeff Benson's been great. We've had him on the podcast before. He's like helped out and whatever. And I love Stadium Swim. Both great. What's your favorite?
Oh, you can't ask that.
It's to your kids.
Yeah, to your kids. Yeah, I would tell you. For me, I also remember I got Bar Canada over at the D. Sure. We got a lot of options. So I would tell you it depends upon the situation. If I've got a large group and the weather is great, and there might be about 10 football games I want to watch, and we want to get after it starting early at about 9 a.m. Well, I might prefer Stadium Swim. If there's an element of a certain intensity coming up where I want to do maybe a doubleheader at night inside the sports book where it's always 72 degrees and all that might be over there. So it kind of depends. I mean, I love all the different, I love Bar Canada over at the D. So I mean, the answer is I can't answer because I like them all.
Well, look, I haven't been over to Bar Canada, but the sports book here is great. Obviously, the first class, but Stadium Swim is a brilliant concept. Like first time, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like everything you would want in Vegas.
140. We put a 143-foot screen out there. We jointly designed that with Daktronics. Daktronics is the company that does a lot of the big screens in arenas and football stadiums around the country. And we designed it specifically for Stadium Swim with the sunlight coming up in the east, how it curves around. We designed it with each one of the pixels with a little eyebrow all over it. So it was a pretty innovative design. And it has to work with both direct sunlight and 120-degree ambient temperature.
Exactly.
And stay that bright.
Everyone's had a TV in their backyard or a projection. It doesn't work.
No glare. No glare.
It works. That really works. That really works very well. So in a very short period of time, I mean, it wasn't that long ago, you could argue before Circa that Westgate had it was the Westgate contest, but now it's the Circa contest. How did you so quickly able to make it that? I mean, just innovation, I guess. You have so many different contests and giveaways and promotions.
Yeah, I mean, I played football contests for a long time, for my gosh, probably 15 or 18 years or so. And I think the Westgate contest was great. I played in contests at Caesars, I played in contests at Stations and in William Hill. When we started up Circa Sports in 2018, I always wanted to get in the football contest. Because listen, I think one thing that we did that hadn't been done before was we decided to start a contest and we put a guarantee of $1 million on. Now the reason we did that was because I viewed our company as a new company, kind of an upstart company. Who the hell would know what Circa Sports is? How do you have any credibility? So we thought, okay, we'll guarantee $1 million and I hope we get $500,000 worth of signups, and if we
Sure.
blow $500,000, then we mark it up as some marketing expense. But then what happened was we filled that first year, and then we bumped it to like $1.5 million. Then it was $3 million. We just kept filling, so we just kept pushing it. So I think what happened was, in retrospect, and now I'm starting to finally even comprehend this a little bit better. By putting the guarantee out, it attracted enough people that understood the positive EV that was out there, that it kind of forced it to the number. So we haven't hit it every year. Sometimes I've gotten a little overzealous, but that's kind of what happened. It was just simply the fact that we felt that we were the new upstart company and we had to provide.
What do you have it at this year? What's your?
Well, now we're at 14 million this year.
That's what I thought. There was an extra zero there now.
Yeah.
That is pretty cool. Are you partial to football, baseball, basketball, any sports, or you're just?
My favorite sport as a fan, as a parent, all that stuff is definitely baseball. I grew up in a baseball kind of household, so I love baseball. So I'll always have that probably as my number one. But boy, oh boy, do I love football. I think football is so spectacular. From a television perspective, it's spectacular from a betting perspective. And then, I did grow up in Detroit, so Detroit is known as hockey town. So I got to grow up with a whole lot of Stanley Cups there. Then I didn't see hockey for about 10 years. And then all of a sudden the Golden Knights come in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we've got a pretty good relationship with the Golden Knights. And that's kind of,
I brought my son the first year, and then you guys were in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I brought him to a game and the whole deal. So one of the big things that we do is we're the only ones that do injury analysis as opposed to injury reporting. So a coach may say this, but we say, no, the video this. But our biggest power is in-game when there's nothing to be said.
Right.
So in-game wagering and so forth. How big is Circa into in-game stuff? Because we look at it as injuries in-game. If you know if Patrick Mahomes is coming back or not, that could be the edge that you need. And in-game is, look, in Europe is huge, right? It's bigger than the
it's
money
huge.
in the beginning.
American sports are a little bit different than the European sports with more like the continuous clock like you get in soccer. But in game is huge. I would say in many games we're going to see more games after the game starts. Might be more wagers after the game starts than before it kicks or tips off. And yeah, there's no algorithm out there right now that tells you, well, Baker Mayfield, is he hobbling off? Just all he needs is a change of possessions and he'll be fine in 5 minutes, or not? Is Patrick Mahomes hobbling off, but he's going to be okay? Is Patrick Mahomes, when he goes in the locker room at halftime, what's the assessment at halftime? Is he going to come back and have full mobility or not? Are they going to have to change their game plan? So what you do is awesome. It's the next level. I love it.
Well, I know, having talked to you guys, I know they follow a lot to figure out to make sure that they're on top of the information that's out there.
But when we're in the risk room and you have an injury like this, often you might have an issue of left ankle of a left tackle, obviously a quarterback's ankle or a quarterback's shoulder. There are no algorithms to make an assessment. Okay, that's worth 2 pennies. That's worth a penny. This is where you have the element of science, medicine. You've got math, but then you have to have a little sense of the game to understand, like, okay, what's the alternative? Okay, if you got a really good running game, you can dominate on the running side. Maybe you can offset a little bit of an injury. It doesn't have that big of an impact. Whereas the same exact injury for somebody else could be devastating to a certain team, depending upon what their game plan is.
So what we do is, with the field views and so forth is, let's say the left tackle's out. You can have the backup. You can put the tight end there. You can put the running back on that side. You can direct the protection that way. But what we then do is, okay, if the right tackle is now out, or the right tackle has to move to left tackle and the right guard moves to right tackle, now 60% of your offensive line has not worked together. Right. So we go a lot by cluster injuries when it talks about linemen or certain position groups. But even in fantasy, instead of deciding to do 2 running backs, look at the health of your offensive line or look at the health of the front 7 on the opposing team. And that's kind of what we do to try and give people some fun and an edge. Look, I thank you for taking this time. I could talk a lot longer. I see your assistant going, we got to go. You got lots of other meetings. I really appreciate it. And I wanted to have you on because honestly, what I said is true, that from nowhere, like you're like the guy that everybody sees. And I like meeting interesting and talking to interesting people. And even though you're not really injury based, what you've done here, it fits with what we do, and want to give you a shout out, a great deal, and check out Stadium Swim. You can't miss it. I'm telling you that the sports book's awesome, but Stadium Swim is very
I appreciate it. So 1 out of 1 doctors gives us the approval. I love it.
1 out of 1 former NFL team doctor.
There we go. That's
all right. All right.
Doc, thank you very much.
Appreciate you. All right, we'll be back for second part. We'll do it from here, the Sports Injury Central Pro Football Doc podcast. All right, thanks, Derek Stevens, good host here, and welcome back to part 2 of the Pro Football Doc Sports Injury Central podcast. I'm behind the counter, Jacob. You need any tickets? Can I, not really. Yeah, it's a spare area. It's not in the main sports book. It's upstairs. It's quieter here. But if you want me to place any wagers for you, I'll do it right here.
Yeah, now's the time to get those futures in. But
futures in,
or Taylor,
or those free parlays or whatever.
Taylor bets enough for both of us, maybe even the 3 of us. So I'll leave that stuff to him.
When Taylor joins us, we might have to slow clap him, right, or something.
Yeah,
for being late. All right, let's roll on with part 2 as we head into the regular season. That's the next set of games here, all regular season games. I know we got the field views going and we got a lot of fun things going on. I will make one little promo. Derek Stevens is killing us, right? So $1 million guarantee. Well, we have a free contest coming up every week with a guaranteed winner of $1,000, but it's free to enter. So, you can't, I'm sure you'll put out more information about that. Few zeros different than what Derek Stevens has, but free is free. His contest costs money to join.
Well, maybe it goes together because our contest is free. You can win $1,000, then you can use that $1,000 to enter Circa.
There you go.
Isn't that the entry fee? I think. It might have gone up.
I don't know. I have not entered it. Although some people have told me you should, because I went by the old Westgate contest when I started, and Circa's really come up. But at the 5 weekly picks was modeled after the original Westgate contest, and I've always done pretty well. I've been in the top 20 going into December, and then December slid a little bit. Where we've never I haven't entered that contest, but paralleling our results with similar lines against the others. We've been in the top 20 a couple years in a row, fallen back a little bit in December. Would have cashed though. And there's Taylor, a slow clap.
Here in Vegas, so you had to hop on.
I almost interrupted you too. I looked at the live thing and I was like, oh, I guess I shouldn't talk for a second.
But you missed it. I placed about 7 free wagers behind the desk here.
No, you didn't. No way.
Yeah, so we're done now. I'm done. Security already came, so I can't do any more.
I sent you a nice email before, so I think I helped a little.
All right. All good. So,
Taylor's been blowing up our Slack. It's a roster cut day, so a lot of interesting movement around the NFL, PUP list, IR, stuff like that. Where I want to start, though, is Jonathan Taylor. I think he's the talk of fantasy today. Is that ankle real? All that stuff. So let's lay it out for you, Doc. Ankle surgery and the off season. I think they said late January is when it went down. Clean out, debridement of some sort. That's where my medical knowledge ends. But is that ankle really still a big deal?
Look, we do not believe the ankle is a big deal. So why is he going on PUP? First of all, think about this. I actually just had a conversation. I won't name drop with an agent that I think everyone would know. What's up with that? And he had his own take. Usually, right, there's something behind the scenes. They already knew what's going to happen here. My point is this, and this is what I asked him. How do you trade a player who's injured? You can't.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you reached agreement on a trade, as soon as he takes a physical, the trade is voided or the compensation changes. I mean, we've seen that in baseball. We've seen that in football. We've seen that in other sports. So I don't understand how Jonathan Taylor could have been on the trading block if he weren't injured. Now, do I think the Colts are lying? No, I'm not calling out Chris Ballard. I'm not calling out Shane Steichen. Does he have something with his ankle where it's sore, where they're choosing him to put on PUP and it's legal? Yes, but our 6 score on Jonathan Taylor has been high. What's happening, I believe, is it's still a standoff. It's not about the ankle. It's about everything else. He's made it clear he don't want to play. So here's the way to not put him on the 53 and eat up a roster spot.
Right.
Is my guess. Look, if his ankle really hurt where he couldn't play, how are they shopping a trade? It makes no sense, right? And by timing with the ankle debridement, I think his ankle's okay. So if he is made happy contractually or is traded, I think he'll start off healthy. So I'm not saying the Colts are lying. I'm just saying he's healthy enough, I believe, to play if he was happy with his contractual situation. And since he isn't really wanting to play without the contract, the Colts say, here's the PUP, right? And because if he has a plausible injury, you can't just fine him and say you're not reporting, right? He has a plausible injury, but it's about motivation. I think that's what J.C. Treader was talking about in terms of hold-ins, right? In some ways, shape, or form. But that's my thought. It's not about the ankle. It's about the contract.
Yeah, since I know there's the NFI mystery back injury that was kind of 2 weeks ago in the middle of training camp. That seems to have fizzled out. Now it's all ankle. So maybe that was.
Well, I mean,
I don't what was that about?
NFI him on ankle. NFI him on back. They can't NFI football him on ankle.
On ankle because he got
hurt.
hurt.
My ankle's not right,
Right.
And if it's plausible, you side with the player or patient in terms of medicine. If it's plausible. And it's plausible that it's his ankle. And I don't think he's lying. He could say, look, my ankle's not 100%. But, boy, if I had enough zeros in my contract or a guaranteed deal or multi-year deal, I would do X, Y, and Z. Otherwise, I'm not going to risk it. That's the fine line that I think can happen, that is happening here, that J.C. Treader, I think, got a little unfair grief. Like, you're asking people to fake injuries. No. He's not saying fake an injury.
Right.
Almost everyone has an injury. Just cite the injury and say, look, I want to, you always heard me say 85% is a good day for an NFL player. But 85% might not be a good enough day to play if you don't have your contractual situation the way that you want it, depending on the situation.
Well, we'll get to some other big fantasy names and injuries like Von Miller and stuff, but I kind of want to ask you about a weird one that came up this week. Is Ryan Jensen missed all last season. Remember that training camp injury? We had the distance view from the sideline fan. A lot of stuff happened in between then. We won't go too into the medical, but he said that unflipped on its own. He had a flip meniscus that unflipped on its own without surgery. And then now it's coming out he could have had reconstructive surgery, but he opted for basically stem cell.
Jacob, let me
interject
for a second. Yeah, let me get it from the Tampa Bay Times. So he had 5 doctors that recommended reconstructive surgery, but he went a different route. That it went stem cells cultivated from umbilical cords donated from mothers who had cesarean sections. So that we do need to go a little medical for Doc with that, I believe.
Well, first of all, okay. What that means is, okay, how should I set this up?
I think that's what everyone's thinking about it, but you can actually answer this. So
yes, yeah, it was interesting to read. I know you can answer.
I actually know the backstory completely.
Right.
From someone who knows the whole story.
The situation,
right.
Yes, yeah.
So I have to stay away from what I was told, because remember, we do injury analysis, not reporting. We're not trying to break news.
We're not trying to break anything.
We're not trying to cite sources and this, that, yeah. So I will answer the question in this way. I've always said, if something doesn't make sense from the outside, it's because we on the outside don't know the whole story. There's no question what you bring up, Taylor, brings up lots of question marks. Look, we said when it first happened on that distance video, ACL, MCL, think his season is done, et cetera, right? And now it says ACL, MCL, and PCL, and the flip meniscus. And he didn't have surgery. We said he would need surgery, we thought, from the outside. When he came back and played in the playoffs, we said there's no way he can. We didn't think he'd be able to play, but certainly not effective. Now, to his credit, he played, and he played all 81 snaps for Tom Brady's last game.
Right.
And obviously they have a close relationship, but he didn't play very well. How could he? Right. And now you have him talking about all these ligaments and things. In general, first of all, on the stem cells from the cord, blood, umbilical cord from other people, what that means is if he had that, it was either done illegally in the United States or he left the country to get it done.
Okay.
And it's a free country. It's a free world. It's not illegal to leave the country to get it done. But that is not technology that is FDA approved that I, as a practicing U.S. surgeon, can do. Does it work? Does it not work? That's a different question. Stem cells are still a little bit cutting edge. Remember Ryan Tannehill and his stem cells?
Yep.
Injections for his ACL? Very soon after he was back, his knee gave out again and needed full reconstructive surgery when he was with the Dolphins. As a surgeon, maybe I'm biased. I think there is a role for biology, biologics, PRP, different medications, stem cells. But the only ones that are legal in the U.S. are your own cells being re-injected. The umbilical cord stuff of live cells is not legal in the U.S. So that's clearing up a point. Do I know that it works or doesn't work? From what I've seen, I don't know that I'm telling my patients to go overseas to get it. But that's also because as a U.S. physician, I cannot be as knowledgeable firsthand in the usage of something that's not legal in the United States. As far as 5 surgeons telling you to do it a certain way, and he chose a different way, which is now his words, right? Look, If 5 surgeons are telling one way and one another, there seems to be a consensus. I'm sure there was a good reason for that he chose the other way. Here's what I always say. When you're the San Francisco, no one makes a dumb decision when they make the decision. Everyone takes all of the facts that they have right there and then. Now, as time goes, does it turn into a dumb decision? We've all been there sometimes.
Right.
But when you're making it, it's very rare that a team or a person says, I know this is dumb, but I'm doing it anyways, right? That can happen. Look, I love John Lynch, not beating up on him, or Kyle Shanahan. But there's no way in the world they said, we're trading these 3 picks, first rounders, and we think it's quite a gamble, and we don't think it's going to work out, but I'm just going to take a shot at Trey Lance. That's not how it went.
Yeah.
Whether they liked Trey Lance more late, whether they were always on Mac Jones, they said, look, we need a quarterback. Let's pay and get a quarterback.
Nobody saw Brock Purdy popping up. Yeah.
What's that?
Yep.
No one saw Brock Purdy popping up as the riding in as the savior. So.
Right. But see, here's what I would say. When they made the pick of Trey Lance, they were high-fiving each other.
They thought they made
that was risky. They liked it.
That was a big decision. They liked it, yeah.
Teams will make a decision. I've been there. Teams will make a decision that makes sense in the moment, and then something happens and it doesn't look so good in the end, right? And maybe that's what happened Ryan Jensen. I can't say it was a dumb decision when he made it. In the end, of course, revisionist history, you want to look a different direction. And, of course, now you could go back and say, I should have done this. Look, when you go for it on 4th down and you don't get it, everyone says it was a dumb decision, right? If you go for it on 4th down and you get it,
you're genius.
You get called brilliant. But the decision itself isn't before the snap isn't good or bad.
Right.
It's the outcome that made it good or bad, right? And so I'm not ready to jump on Ryan Jensen for a bad decision. Kudos, he got a lot of opinions. I'm sure he and his people had a reason to make the other decision. Not just like Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch had a reason to select Trey Lance. And to his credit, their credit, they did get Brock Purdy. They drafted him too. It balances it out.
It makes it less, yeah.
Like people thought historically, the people that follow this podcast, that I was hating on the Cowboys. And, our guy, Jalen Smith, right, who's now with the Saints. Did he make the club?
I still have to check that. Let me check that for you. Yeah, that's a good question.
My point is that knee injury was nasty at Notre Dame in college. And
he got cut. Yeah.
Like we said, I don't think he can play special teams. He can't run down full speed and change directions.
Right.
And so he was supposed to be a generational linebacker, and the injury derailed his career. I did not believe that there was any way that he would rank, that he's at best a 3rd-day pick or potentially a free agent because of the injury. But the Cowboys picked him at the very top of the 2nd round. Mm-hmm. And they kept doubling down, saying he was going to be okay. He didn't play the first year, played poorly the 2nd year. 3rd year, he could blitz an A-gap. He did all right, but he couldn't really
He had a lot of tackles that year.
Yeah, but he couldn't really be in coverage, and he got in his 4th year, he got exposed, but he got a big deal. Yep. Good on him. But the Cowboys don't have to defend that. They also drafted Dak Prescott in the 4th round. If you would have told me you drafted Dak Prescott in the 2nd round at the top and Jalen Smith in the 1st round, you'd say that makes sense. It's a pretty good draft. That's just the way it goes. So I'm not hating on anybody. And I am sorry Jalen Smith didn't make the Saints, but it kind of is expected, unfortunately. The injury is what it was. I'm the first one to say without this, he could have really, I think, been special. And I'm surprised that he even played as much as he did in the league, given how bad the injury was. The Cowboys, you think they made the decision saying, we don't think Jalen Smith is going to make it? This is a bad pick. They said, no, we're optimistic. It's going to heal. We think it's okay. We talked to our team doctors. Doesn't make him a bad doctor. I mean, it's a decision that was made, and, it didn't work out.
Well, let me give you 3 players.
I mean, put it this way: do you ever place a bet that you think he's going to lose?
I was gonna say the
No,
Vegas analogy is
never.
right there. It turns
Yeah,
into a
never.
bad bet the longer the game goes.
Yeah, a lot of times it's a bad
Yeah,
bet, bad beat, or a
for
horrific
sure.
bet. You're on the wrong side from the beginning. But when you made it, you had your reasons. You thought it was good.
I've had a couple minutes into a bet where I'm like, shoot, I'm on the wrong side immediately, and you're not coming back. But yeah, it was good at the time. It's
And then
never
sometimes
bad.
it turned
When
into
you-
a decent bet at the end.
When you put your money in, it was good at the time.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
good. That's why the money's in. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, let me
All
give you
right.
three different players, Doc. Wouldn't say any of them are surprises that they landed on pup. Von Miller, La'el Collins, and Kyler Murray. Which one would you expect to see first this season? Remember, La'el Collins is the multi-ligament. He's the inside leg if he's going to play right tackle. Von Miller, I believe, is the left knee, and then Kyler's the right knee.
I think Kyler's last. I think La'el Collins is first, and Von Miller is in between. Here's why. La'el Collins, I get it, multi-ligament, but his job is to play in essentially a 3 to 5 yard area, right? And he's a big boy and whatever. Von Miller, if he's a split second slow, now we've talked about maybe moving to the other side so it's the healthy outer leg.
Right.
You're not the same. Kyler Murray, I'm not hating on Kyler Murray. If Kyler Murray is a pocket quarterback and can see and play from the pocket, I believe he would play at the start of the season. But if you take away his run ability, his escape ability, his running ability, he's putting himself at risk, but also he's already got the big deal. So why would you put yourself at risk? And at this point, does anyone think the Cardinals are going to go anywhere this year? Right.
I mean, the first 2 teams have a lot more to play for sure.
Now, the other reason, and I'm not hating on Kyler Murray with that, is if you're the Arizona Cardinals and you look at, you have Kyler Murray, do you want Kyler Murray out there if he's 85%? Or do you want to wait until he's 95% or 100, right? Joe Burrow, you want out there if his running ability is only 85%, because you want him out there for his passing.
Yes, exactly.
And we said from day one, we believe Joe Burrow is going to play week 1. Is he not? And is he going to be able to run? Some, but I think he will end up being told and choose not to. Not because he couldn't run on 4th and 3 when he had to. And maybe in 4th and 3 he would run, but the more change of direction and explosive he has to be running, the higher chance he has of re-aggravating that calf and suffering a setback. So the team's going to say, come on, Joe, don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Right. And I think he can play well from the pocket. He's a different type of quarterback. Look, once again, not hating on him, but I think it'd be harder for Joe Burrow to play with a high ankle like Patrick Mahomes did in the playoffs. I think it'd be harder for Kyler Murray to do that, just using those examples. But Patrick Mahomes with his off-axis throws, and we've talked about it, doesn't need to stick that back foot into the ground, so to speak, to get the ball out.
Well, you can check out Sick Insights on the website. Main article right now is the Fantasy Draft Toolkit. Definitely check it out before all your drafts. We have quarterback scores, wide receiver, running back, tight ends, all that good stuff, along with fantasy articles to help you. I want to finish on one player, Doc. Kind of interesting decision that the Seahawks chose not to put Jackson Smith-Njigba on IR with his wrist. Seems like a lot of the Twitter crowd is saying, okay, so maybe it is just a 2 to 3 week injury then. Maybe Pollyanna Pete's right. Is it somewhere in the middle?
Well, let me ask this question. Is it official that he's not on IR?
I believe they made the roster cuts. I'm not 100%.
He's made the 53-man roster, but he's not at.
Okay, here's what this means. Okay,
right.
And we'll see how it works out. There was no way that he was going to get put on injured reserve before he made the 53. Why?
Right.
Because that would mean season with no chance to come back. So this is where fans don't have it correct. It is meaningless that he hasn't been placed on IR yet, because nobody, including us, thought this was a season-ending fracture. And that's what IR before making the 53 would mean. Now that he's made the 53, if he goes on IR, now it's the designated to return slot 4 weeks. So it remains to be seen if he will hit IR, but the IR that he will hit will be one where he can come back after 4 games, and the Seahawks have a week 5 bye. So for the he won't hit IR crowd, that hasn't happened yet. He's got to make the 53 first,
right?
And then the IR designation comes, and that allows him to come back. So until we get to week 1, and even then he could get put on later, then he'd miss the 5th game of the season, right? But he literally could get put on IR Saturday/Sunday morning before the first game.
Yeah.
And it still would be just 4 games and come back after the bye.
Right.
So that's probably what they're doing. Let's just carry him on the 53. Let's see how he does. Let's see if he's getting close. If by the end of the first week he's close, look, if he gets lucky, maybe he can play with the brace. I think that's going to be tough. But if he gets close, then maybe they don't put him on IR because they're thinking he's close. But if he's not close, you still can pull that trigger, get the roster spot, etc. That's why the tale is still untold on JSN.
Well, that's even Pollyanna Pete said it's such an elaborate surgery for such a small crack. So that he's not even being completely optimistic with, he's usually, I know you'd love to hear
he's
that.
He's doing it his way, but yeah.
I do not love to hate on Pete Carroll. I'm from Southern California. I like Pete Carroll at USC. I like Pete Carroll. I'm amused by his Pollyanna glass always 3/4 full approach.
Yep.
I'm amused by it. It's okay. I mean, would you rather have a coach be that or be lying to the public? I mean, I'm amused by it.
Yeah.
And look, a small crack is like saying slightly broken is like saying slightly pregnant. Okay. I mean, the bottom line is the bone's broken and it needed surgery. And it's the scaphoid bone, which is tough to heal because of blood supply. And the splint that he will need will include the thumb. That makes it very, even if he's not hurting, it makes it hard to catch the ball. Okay, one-handed.
Right. And you're not blocking too, right? You're going to be out there and not block at all?
Well, depends on how they wrap it. But, yeah, you're right. Blocking's part of the game too, of course, for a wide receiver. So we'll see. But to say, he's going to play, it's not a bad deal because they didn't put on injured reserve, not accurate. People who say that are not understanding what the NFL system is.
No, it's a key, especially for heading into fantasy drafting him. If you're thinking he's playing week 2 versus he might sit till week 6, that's a big difference in your fantasy.
Well, that's why we've lowered his number, right? I mean, we're not so sure he's going to be there. Same with Terry McLaurin. Same with a few other people, right? In terms of what's happening. So
their bye week is week 5. Their bye week is week 5 as well.
So right. So he'll play the 5th game. Yeah.
Well, I think Beast of the Week got to be Damar Hamlin. I mean, it's great. We've kind of moved on from the Damar Hamlin coverage and making sure every step of the way that he's hitting all the boxes. But just great to see him return to football, and hopefully in a good way, this story will die down. That it's not as incredible it's obviously incredible that he came back and is playing active football and made the 53-man roster, but hopefully, I'm sure he wants to kind of put it behind him too.
I had one agent call me this week. Once again, won't say the name, and say, do you have any worry that there's going to be a lot of canceled games? Because he said Damar Hamlin, they canceled that game, and now there were a couple of preseason games that were canceled.
Twice.
Someone went off on a spine board. And my answer to him was no. The Damar Hamlin one was so out there. No one has seen someone do CPR on a teammate. Everyone has seen that cervical collar and spine board, and you get the thumbs up before they leave, and then you continue to play. So why in these preseason games were they canceled? Well, maybe because, they saw a precedent of it being canceled with Damar Hamlin, but you got to remember it was also the preseason. Right? I mean, missed the last 10 minutes of the 4th quarter, cancel the game. It doesn't matter. Yes. I do not see players advocating for that come the regular season. I don't see it. I don't see it as a problem. But back to what you say, hopefully, Damar Hamlin gets back to his starting position. I think he's right now on the depth charts, the backup. But that's probably the last tail end of the story, and good for him. And he's doing all this good heart work as well now. And AEDs, our Little League field or pony field has a couple extra AEDs as a result of the awareness of Damar Hamlin. And remember,
he's a good special team player too. He's a good special team player. Yeah, so he'll be on the field. Yeah.
And why Little League? Because commotio cordis, the ball or the puck or projectile hitting the chest. Very unlucky circumstance, but boy, it seems like a happy ending. So I agree with you. Beast of the week, beast of the year, whatever, to Damar Hamlin, and kudos to him and all the good stuff that he's doing. All right, so the regular season flowing here. That was a good guest here, Derek Stevens, and look for a lot of new features at Sports Injury Central. The free $1,000 weekly contest, nothing to enter, sick data, field views, sick insights. I'm telling you, you're going to want to bookmark that before you get ready to go. And thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.